Good day, students! We are the Group 1 and we will be tackling the topic about stylistic approach. And before we dive into the report, I will first introduce to you the speakers of this presentation. Let's start off Miss Cindy R. Intig, Mr. Junchris Daclan, Miss Alni L. Timbol, Miss Princess Rabanes, and last speaker, Miss Francine Villanueva. I encourage you all to stay focused and be with us until the end of this presentation. Let's begin. What is stylistics? Stylistics is a branch of linguistics that studies style in a scientific and systematic way concerning the manners, linguistic features of different varieties of language at different levels. So, in other words, stylistics is a discipline that studies the way the language is used. It is relating to the methods and techniques when you used in creating a piece of writing. In a pedagogical aspects of stylistics, a stylistics approach teaches students how to look for and interpret stylistic dimensions of a text. So meaning, it aims to account for how texts project meaning, how readers construct meaning, and why readers respond to text in the way that they do. Don't get confused. Stylistics and linguistics are two approaches that are related but different in use, because stylistics is the linguistic study of style in language, whereas linguistics is a systematic study of language form. And for further discussion on this approach, I will pass you on to the next reporter.
For further discussions about the important things you need to consider when dealing with stylistics, first is stylistics is derived from style and could be said to be a combination of style and linguistics. So, style is the basic thing that gives uniqueness to every writer. Style is also seen as a mark of character.
The word stylistics is derived from style, and could be said to be a combination of style and linguistics. And style is the basic thing which gives uniqueness to every writer. For example, on a writer's style, it often manifests in their tone, word choice, and sentence structure, figurative language, sensory details, and other such elements of prose in their writing.
Second, it is for students to appreciate and understand in a deeper manner of the literary text. Stylistics aims to account for how text projects meaning, how readers construct meaning, and why readers respond to text the way they do. Stylistics is very important in literature because each literary text represents an individual's use of language which reflects his unique personality, thoughts, and style. No matter how calculatingly choices may be made, a writer's style will bear the mark of his personality. An experienced writer is able to rely on the power of his habitual choices of sounds, words, and syntactic patterns to convey his personality or fundamental outlook. The goal of most stylistics is not simply to describe the formal features of text or for their own sake, but in order to show their functional significance for the interpretation of the text, or in order to relate literary effects to linguistic causes, where these are felt to be relevant. This means that the knowledge of grammar and tenses are very important elements for the learner to get a strong grasp on, because in some poetry, poets intentionally use deviation to foreground important features in their works. Here are some examples from Soyenka's. Soyenka's 1976 entitled Night is a poem written in triplets with the first and third lines of each stanza rhyming. It has 5 stanzas and 15 lines. The poet describes nightfall and its effects on him. Next is Suyenka's 1967 Death in the Dawn. On the other hand is a free verse poem in 7 stanzas and 35 lines of variable length. It is a poem that presents itself in a monologue and addresses the reader as a traveler, and a narrative account of life as a journey and a form of passage. Suyenka's poem deviated in ways that make words violate the class to which they originally belong, inflect words which do not require inflections, create compounds not seen in the lexicon of the language, make structures violate the selectional restriction and category rule, and give rise to figurative language. Stylistic studies how individuals make language choices in different situations for different purposes. It also tries to point out the rules guiding such choices made by individuals and describe them.
In these slides, I will tell you what are the problems encountered by students and teachers' perspective whenever the stylistic approach is not used in the reading stages. The student's perspective. During the late curriculum, lecture-based learning leaves little room for students to participate and play an active role in the classroom, meaning the late traditional teaching doesn't purely involve the students' participation, because teachers only follows the curriculum, which is to deliver the context of the literature to students without confirming how they learn from the discussion. They do not get an opportunity to interact with a piece of art and study it from innovative perspective to find new meaning. In here, this is a sad reality, no? Why? Because during the late teachings or late traditional teaching, teachers only follows I mean only focuses the goal rather than the objective. Goal means to finish the book rather than following the objectives. Every piece of art should be presented to them as an independent case study so that students can learn to experience the language, not just the language, but also the culture, the structure, and the literature itself. The teacher's perspective. The biggest problem that the teacher faces in an English literature class is that most of the students lack the exposure of English language. They can neither speak or read English fluently. This results in poor reading and lack of reading habits. Yes, that is so true. It is really hard to teach someone who doesn't even know how to read nor comprehend. This attitude and practices needs immediate reinforcement as has already been adopted by many of renowned universities. Application to students. The 3 stages. First is the pre-reading stage. Second is the reading stage. Third is the after-class stage. The pre-reading stage. Teachers should ask the students to fully review before class, such as asking the students to look up unfamiliar words that may affect their stylistic analysis and understanding. So in here, pre-reading. Pre means first. It is stated there that before the teacher starts the class, the teacher must ask the student first to pre-read the given article or the literature and highlight the unfamiliar words or the vocabulary and let the students search for the meaning, so that by the time the teacher starts the class, the student will become more effective or efficient in learning. The rereading stage. The teacher should provide the students with the discussion topic related to the topic of the article, guide, and help the students analyze the article at various levels, such as pronunciation, vocabulary, syntax, grammar, context, and discourse. After class stage, teachers should reserve an instructional assignment for students, such as paraphrasing passages, rewrite complex sentence patterns, and creating prose with beautiful style by themselves. So why is it important to reserve instructional assignments? It is important because instructional assignment helps students to further broaden their knowledge and understanding of a certain subject. It also determines whether they understood the given discussion.
But there are also other applications we can apply stylistics, and this will be discussed by the next reporter. How can we do it?
This approach can be brought to the classroom by using the technique of foregrounding, a technique effectively used in advertisements. Foregrounding is aesthetically purposeful when it vitally influences interpretation. The foregrounding can be applied to a literary text through various methods such as linguistic deviation and parallelism. So, linguistic deviation. In this method, there is a great possibility that some linguistic features may vary, while others are constant. The following example can be studied: parallelism. So, in short, deviation in stylistic is the breaking of rules which others obey. You can see in the slide, a day ago, a week ago, a month ago, shown a normal paradigm. So paradigm is the set of standard, set of perspective, or set of ideas. So when the poet used a grief ago, it shows an abnormal paradigm because it uses the different style of words, which shows the stylistic and semantic variation. So A, the definite article shows that it is placed with countable noun, which can be pluralized. The post-modifying adverb ago would normally modify a noun which goes with time. Grief is a word denoting to emotion. Thus, by using the abnormal paradigm, the poet wants to stand out with a different and specific meaning which has a psychological appeal to the readers. Next is parallelism. So in this method, there is a great possibility that some linguistic features may vary while others are constant. The following example can be studied for parallelism. It means that the similar parts of the sentence have the same structures. So nouns are with nouns, verbs with verbs, and phrases with phrases. See in the slide the example: I kiss the ear, I kill thee. The above line consists of two clauses linked by ear. These two clauses are parallel to each other. The words I, thee are repeated, and the words kiss and killed are both verbs and have the phonetic or tonographic similarity. You can see in the example they have the same structure, they are comparable and balanced.
Orthographic deviation is a set of conventions, mechanics of writing, like capitals for writing a language, and it includes spelling and punctuation as well. Example: William Blake uses tiger, which spells Tyger, from Old English in place of the common spelling in Modern English tiger, or which spells Tiger. This shows that his deviation from norm is intentional. He wants to describe his animal different from others, and thus mysterious too. Mysterious in a sense that past is always full of mysteries. In this case, while Tyger or tiger was a common archaic spelling of Tiger, tiger, at that time, Blake has elsewhere spelled the word as Tyger, for the poem has usually been interpreted as being for effect, perhaps to render an exotic or alien quality of that, or because it's not really about a tiger, Tiger, at all, but a metaphor. Syntactic deviation. Syntactic inversion is a common device used It occurs when a writer deviates from the norms of syntax. It is a departure from the normal rules of grammar. It is a kind of deviation in which poets do not follow the rules of grammar and sentence formation. For foregrounding concerning making a linguistic utterance, words, clause, phrase, phoneme, and etc. in a literary text. Example: with candles with lanterns, throwing giant scorpion, shadows on the sun-baked walls, they searched for him. He was not found. Night of the Scorpion by Nisam Ezekiel. Ezekiel's Night of the Scorpion is especially fit for analysis because although it is a narrative supposed to be uttered by a single speaker, Ezekiel succeeds in creating the illusion of a drama by evoking, through the speeches of the narrator and other partners, an intimate context of utterance, providing characterization and a structured piece of discord. Normal structure would be they search for him with candles, and with lanterns throwing giant scorpion shadows on the sun-baked walls. But the poet might have used the device of syntactic inventions for emphasis. Although the poem isn't directly interpersonal, it additionally and textually projects a word that has implications for readers and in how it narrates the incidents and what leaves out. Looking at the poem, we understand its situation, for example, its relocation within a network of relationship involving the writer, reader, and the world. Repetition of a sentence or words and phrases is another technique used to produce emphasis. Repetition is one of the figures of speech that shows the logical emphasis that is necessary to attract a reader's attention on the key word or a key phrase of the text. It implies repeating sounds, words, expressions, and clauses in a certain succession or even with no particular placement of the word. In order to provide emphasis, there is no restriction in using repetition, but too much repetition can be dull and even spoil its stylistic effect. Example: in The Rocking Horse Winner, a short story by D.H. Lawrence, the sentence, "There should be more money," has been used repeatedly, and while reading the story, it leaves an impact of the mind of the reader and depicts the central theme also. In this story state that the basic purpose of using repetition in Lawrence's story is emphasis. The repetition makes the idea effect and draws the reader's attention to it. It is included that stylistic analysis of literary text is valuable for students, in the sense that it helps them relate a piece of literary writing to their own experience of language and consequently extend that experience based on the literary text they learned. Is concerned with the choices that are available to a writer and the reason why particular forms and expressions are used rather than others. Stylistic is a language-based approach that is part of using literature to make meaningful interpretation. Is a key learning aid because it helps transition a skill from the conscious to the subconscious. Through repetition, a skill is practiced and rehearsed over time and gradually becomes easier for the students to know how meanings are made, and he or she feels independent to make judgments himself or herself, rather than believing on what the teacher says.
And now we are bound to the last part of this presentation, the summary.
If we adopt a stylistic approach to the teaching of literature, the students will get the participatory role as they will be taught to interact, examine, and evaluate the language of text, to interpret the meaning acquired intuitively using linguistic features and literary theories. This will help them understand the role of language in literature, and they will be able to appreciate the artistic use of language from their own point of view. A stylistic analysis of a literary text would help the students enhance their communicative competence, as they would be directly working on the foreign language, which is a method far apart from the traditional ways of memorization and reproduction. When the students will learn to analyze the text from their own point of view, they will also learn to experiment with the language in everyday life.
And that concludes our lesson for today. See you next time.